$100 million for divorce. My wife, Isabella Vance, slid a folder across the polished mahogany between us. Her face, a perfect, beautiful sculpture of ice, held no warmth at all. I was stunned, not because of the divorce, because I'd woken up inside a novel. I was now Cole Evans, the pathetic loser side character in this cliché fake marriage romance. According to the original script, this is the part where I'd burst into tears and cling to Isabella's leg, begging her not to leave. You have got to be kidding me. Sure, she was a billionaire CEO, an untouchable goddess to most men. And yes, the gig came with a $100,000 monthly allowance just for being a doormat. Who wouldn't want a deal like that? That's who. Our 3-year marriage contract had been a sham, all because Isabella's heart belonged to her one true love, the novel's hero, Julian Hayes. To her credit, her moral compass was strong enough that she never actually cheated on me. But I knew the script. Julian was about to return from overseas. And when he did, I, the loser husband, would be systematically crushed by the two of them, thrown out with nothing and left to die in a gutter somewhere. To hell with being a doormat. To hell with her one true love. I was done playing this part. $100 million. I picked up the divorce papers, tapping a finger on the number. Isabella's knuckles whitened around her Mont Blanc pen. A flicker of disgust, so faint I might have missed it, crossed her eyes. Is it not enough? Don't be greedy, Cole. Her voice was as cold as her stare. For 3 years, you've lived in my house and spent my money. $100 million is more than enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. I laughed. Did she really expect me to cry and beg like the simp from the book? Enough? It's more than enough. I grabbed the pen and, with 2 quick strokes, scrawl my name, Cole Evans, at the bottom. The signature was bold and decisive, a world away from the meek, looping script of the man whose body I now inhabited. When does the wire transfer go through? I asked, pushing the papers back to her. Isabella froze. The entire speech she'd prepared, full of condescension and insults, was stuck in her throat. For the first time, I saw an emotion other than disdain in her perfect eyes, pure, unadulterated shock. She stared at me, searching my face for any sign of a bluff, of heartbreak, of pain. She found nothing. All she saw was relief, maybe even eagerness. Tomorrow, she finally bit out, the color draining from her face. Great. I'll be out of here today, then. I stood up and stretched, a satisfying series of cracks running up my spine. The original Cole had neglected this body, but it had good bones. 6'2", a solid frame from years of half-hearted gym visits. Underneath a layer of complacency were the makings of an 8-pack. It was a sports car left to rot in a garage. Well, I was about to take it for a spin. I turned and walked away without a second glance, my posture that of a stranger leaving a hotel. Behind me, there was a sharp, grating sound. I didn't need to look back to know what it was. Isabella's pen, digging a deep, angry scar into the surface of her priceless mahogany desk. Perfect. And that was just the beginning. Back in my room, I felt no nostalgia. I didn't even bother packing a suitcase. With my new fortune, I could buy anything I needed. I only made one phone call. Kevin? It's Cole Evans. The line was silent for a full 3 seconds before a respectful, slightly confused voice answered. Mr. Evans? Sir? How can I help you? Kevin Price. Nominally my assistant, but in reality, a spy sent by the Vance family to keep tabs on me. In the book, however, he gets framed by Julian and nearly sent to prison. The original Cole scrapes together every penny he can to bail him out. From that moment on, Kevin becomes his only loyal ally. I was just moving up the timeline. I have a job for you, I said, getting straight to the point. Tomorrow, $100 million will hit my account. I need you to take $50 million and buy the old, abandoned chemical plant grounds in the Southbridge industrial sector. All of it. Pay whatever they ask. The Southbridge plant. Kevin's voice was laced with shock. Sir, that land is worthless. It's polluted. It's in the middle of nowhere. What would you want it for? Of course he was shocked. In 2 weeks, the city was going to announce that very site as the location for the new quantum tech corridor. The value of that land wasn't just going to double. It was going to multiply by 100. Your job is to buy it, not to ask why, I said, too lazy to explain. With the remaining funds, find me a place to live. A house, quiet, with a large kitchen. Then I want you to hire a team of 8 chefs, each a master of their own cuisine, French, Italian, Japanese, you name it. Also, find me a master distiller who knows his way around whiskey and gin. Oh, and give me a golden retriever. The other end of the line went dead silent. I could almost picture Kevin's face, the baffled expression of someone trying to read assembly instructions in a foreign language. Buying toxic wasteland, hiring an army of chefs, and starting a distillery. Not even the most degenerate trust fund kid burned money like this. Sir, Kevin asked tentatively. You and Mrs. Vance. We're divorced. I hung up, feeling fantastic. Starting tomorrow, I was going to live the good life. The retired life. The next morning, the notification from my bank was more punctual than any alarm clock. A wire transfer of $100 million has been received in your account ending in XXXX. I stared at the long line of zeros and felt a deep sense of peace. Kevin was efficient. He called around noon, his voice still sounding dazed. Mr. Evans, I've secured the house. A private villa in Riverwood Estates. Heated pool, chef's kitchen, everything you asked for. The chefs and the master distiller have been contacted and are on standby. The golden retriever is also. What about the land? I cut him off. That's also done, Kevin said, his voice dropping to a whisper. It cost $48 million. The sellers jacked up the price when they heard someone was interested. They treated us like idiots. Good work, I said, nodding with satisfaction. As for the rest of the money, do what you want with it. Set up an investment firm. You're in charge. From now on, you work for me. Your salary. Let's start you at $2 million a year. $2 million. Kevin's voice cracked. As a high-level executive assistant at Vance Industries, he was killing himself for maybe $300,000 a year. Me, the good-for-nothing ex-husband, was offering him $2 million. Not enough. No, sir. It's more than enough. Thank you, Mr. Evans. I swear, from this day on, I'll walk through fire for you. Kevin's voice trembled with emotion. I knew it wasn't just about the money. It was about the trust and respect that Isabella had never given him. I'd handed him a $100 million portfolio without blinking an eye. That was a level of confidence not even Isabella Vance possessed. After settling things, I drove the cheapest car in the garage, a Porsche, out to Riverwood Estates. The new house was perfect, modern, minimalist, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a lush, green valley. My first order of business was to have each of my 8 chefs prepare their signature dish. Braised short rib that melted in your mouth. A lobster bisque so rich it was sinful. A perfectly seared filet mignon. Life was about 2 things, eating and drinking. The whole point of working hard was to be able to enjoy all this without a shred of guilt. After the feast, I swam laps in the heated pool for half an hour, working off the buzz from the wine. The lines of my 8-pack grew sharper. Looking at my reflection in the mirror-like surface of the water, at a face that was unfairly handsome, I sighed. The only downside to this whole transmigration thing was that I'd probably have to start wearing a mask in public. Just as I was heading upstairs for a nap, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it. Cole. It was Isabella's voice. Still cold, but something was different. The commanding tone was gone, replaced by a complex note I couldn't place. What's up? I asked, toweling my hair. You didn't go to your parents' house today, she said after a pause. Right? According to our agreement, we were supposed to keep the divorce a secret from our families for a while. The original Cole had a standing weekly dinner with his parents to keep up the charade. Slipped my mind, I said honestly. Silence on the other end. I could picture her perfectly, brow furrowed in confusion. Slipped his mind. This was a man who had my schedule memorized better than the digits of pi. How could he forget something so important? My grandfather is furious. Isabella's voice turned colder. You should probably be the one to explain it to him. Fine, I'll handle it. I was about to hang up and get back to my nap schedule. Wait, she said suddenly. That land in Southbridge. You're the one who bought it. I raised an eyebrow. News traveled fast. Yeah, what about it? Are you insane? She couldn't seem to grasp it. Cole, I know you want to prove yourself now that you have some money, but this is reckless. You need to be careful with that settlement, or else. Ms. Vance? I interrupted with a small laugh. How I spend my money doesn't really seem like any of your business anymore, does it? You. And please, stop calling me Cole. It's too formal. You can call me your ex-husband. With that, I hung up. Listening to the dial tone, Isabella clutched her phone, the judgment she had formed over 3 years beginning to crack for the very first time. This man, he was really, truly different. That weekend, I made a trip to my family's home, not to put on a show, but because in the original Cole's memories, his grandfather had actually been decent to him. The moment I walked in the door, a teacup flew past my ear and shattered against the wall. "You worthless punk. You finally decided to show your face." My grandfather's beard trembled with rage as he leaned on his cane, pointing it at me. "I heard you divorced Isabella. Who gave you the nerve? You've disgraced the entire Evans family." My parents hovered nearby, sighing dramatically, while my so-called brother, Kyle, wore a smirk dripping with schadenfreude. "Come on, bro, that was pretty impulsive," he said. Ms. Vance is such a catch. How could you let her go?" I ignored him. In the book, this little snake made a habit of undermining the original Cole, desperate to see me kicked to the curb by the Vances. "Grandfather, I was the one who asked for the divorce," I said, looking at him calmly. "You." He raised his cane again, ready to strike. "You know she loves someone else," I stated plainly. "You can't force something that isn't there. Rather than 3 people being miserable, it's better for one of us to walk away. Your grandson is not that pathetic." The cane froze in midair. My grandfather's clouded eyes stared at me, trying to see through to my soul. After a long moment, he sighed and lowered his arm. Fine. I can't live my grandchildren's lives for them." Just like that, the family storm dissipated. The smug look on my brother Kyle's face curdled into confusion. Leaving the family home, I drove straight to an exclusive, members-only art gallery. According to the original plot, there was a small cello recital there today, and the novel's other female lead, Chloe Reed, would be in attendance. I wasn't there to orchestrate a chance encounter. It was just that my grand plan for a life of leisure required some high culture to enrich the soul. And if I happened to meet a girl who was described as an angel in the process, all the better. The recital was excellent. The cellist was a world-renowned master. But I found my attention drawn to the young woman in the seat next to me. She wore a simple white dress, her long hair cascading down her back, her skin like porcelain. Unlike the other stiff-backed patrons, she was leaning slightly, her eyes closed, her fingers tapping lightly on her knee in time with the music. A gentle smile played on her lips. She wasn't just listening to the music, she was living it. That pure, unadulterated joy made her glow. When the final note faded, the hall erupted in applause. She opened her eyes. They were as clear and bright as a fawn's. Her gaze met mine, and she blushed slightly, offering a small smile. "You're a fan of Rachmaninoff, too?" she whispered. "Not exactly a fan." I shook my head. "I just think his music has this incredible life force. No matter how dark it gets, it always finds its way back to the light. Just like me." The girl's eyes lit up. A kindred spirit. She extended her hand. "I'm Chloe Reed, Cole Evans." I took her hand. It was soft and cool, a perfect fit in mine. "That's a nice name, too," she said, her eyes curving into crescents as she smiled. "My mother always says that names with purpose belong to the most sincere people." I chuckled. "Ma'am, you may have misjudged this one. The man in front of you is anything but sincere." We hit it off immediately, talking about everything from classical music to modern poetry, from Hemingway to Van Gogh. I discovered that Chloe was far more brilliant than the book gave her credit for, with a unique talent for seeing the beauty in everything. Talking to her felt like a walk through a park on a perfect spring day. "It's getting late. I should head home," she said, glancing at her watch, a hint of regret in her voice. "Can I give you a ride?" "Okay," she agreed, without any hesitation. As we stepped out of the gallery, a fire-engine-red Ferrari screeched to a halt in front of us. The window rolled down to reveal a face with flawless makeup and a hostile glare. "Chloe, what are you doing with someone like him?" The newcomer was Chloe's friend and also one of Isabella's closest confidants, Tiffany, a textbook social climber. In the novel, she was one of the main sources of ridicule for the original Cole. "Tiffany, what are you doing here?" Chloe asked, surprised. Tiffany got out of the car, shot me a disdainful look, and took Chloe by the arm. "If I didn't show up, you'd be getting scammed by some lowlife." She turned back to Chloe. "Do you have any idea who this is?" "This is Isabella Vance's famously pathetic ex-husband, Cole Evans. She just dumped him, and now that he has a little money, he thinks he's hot stuff. You need to stay away from guys like him. Her voice was just loud enough for a few passersby to overhear. Curious glances were thrown our way. Chloe frowned, pulling her arm free. Tiffany, he's my friend. Friend. Tiffany laughed, as if it were the funniest joke she'd ever heard. Chloe, you're too naive. A guy like him is only after you because of your family's money. Isabella said he used to be like gum on her shoe, impossible to get rid of. He's just trying the same trick on you. I folded my arms, watching her performance with detached amusement. It was like watching a monkey screeching in a cage. Are you done? I asked calmly. My placid expression seemed to throw her off. When you are, could you move? You're blocking my car, I said, pointing to the unassuming Porsche parked behind her Ferrari. Tiffany's face flushed a deep, ugly red. You, Cole isn't the kind of person you think he is, Chloe said, stepping in front of me to face Tiffany down. I trust my own judgment. Wow, unconditional trust. That felt surprisingly good. Chloe, are you crazy? Tiffany shrieked. I'm not crazy, Chloe said, shaking her head. She turned back to me with a smile. Let's go. My mom's waiting for me for dinner. I nodded, opened the passenger door, and made a welcoming gesture. Chloe slid into the seat and gave the dumbfounded Tiffany a little wave. I hit the gas, and the car pulled smoothly away from the curb. In the rearview mirror, Tiffany's figure shrank until she was just a comical, angry speck. Sorry about that, Chloe said, looking a little embarrassed. Tiffany doesn't mean any harm. She's just blunt. It's fine, I chuckled. If a rabid dog bites you, you don't bite it back, right? Chloe blinked, then let out a delighted laugh, the tension in the car instantly vanishing. You're actually pretty funny. What can I say? I'm a natural. We chatted the whole way, and before I knew it, we were pulling up to the Reed family estate. It was even more impressive than I'd imagined. Want to come in for some tea? Chloe offered. I shook my head. Not today. Maybe next time. I've still got a few things to take care of, namely my 8-course dinner. Okay, she said, a flicker of disappointment in her eyes, but she nodded agreeably. Drive safe. Oh, and here. She handed me a small, embroidered sachet decorated with a crescent moon. I got it from a temple. It's for good luck. I took the sachet. It smelled faintly of gardenias, the same scent she wore. Thanks. As I watched her walk through the gates, I lifted the sachet and inhaled. I had to admit, being cared for by a genuinely good person felt pretty damn nice. That good mood, however, didn't last long. The moment I got home, my phone rang. It was Kevin, and he sounded frantic. Mr. Evans, it's bad. We have a huge problem. What is it? Calm down and tell me, I said, pouring myself a glass of the distiller's new craft gin. I took a sip, crisp and floral. Even if the sky was falling, it could wait until I finished my drink. The land we bought. The story's been leaked. Kevin's voice was on the verge of tears. It's all over the internet. They're accusing us of colluding with the government, of getting insider information. It's even affecting Vance Industries stock. It's down almost 5%. Oh, I wasn't surprised in the slightest. This was Julian's handiwork. In the book, his first move after returning to the country was to use this exact issue to attack Isabella and force her to cede power. This time, however, I was the one taking the heat instead of her. It gets worse, Kevin continued. The SEC and the IRS have formed a joint task force to investigate our new company. They're coming tomorrow. Sir, should we make a run for it? Run where? I laughed. We've done nothing wrong. Let them investigate. They won't find a thing. The money I used was from a divorce settlement. It's sourced perfectly legal. The land purchase was a standard commercial transaction, and I'd even paid above market value. What could they possibly find? But the public opinion. Cole Evans dismisses public opinion and gives instructions. Public opinion is like the weather. It'll change tomorrow, I said, finishing my gin. What you need to do right now is stop worrying about online trolls and start calling the biggest construction firms in the city. Construction firms? Why? Kevin asked, confused again. The tech corridor needs to be built, doesn't it? I said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. We sell the land to the city, then we win the contract to develop it. We get paid on both ends. What's that called, Kevin? Synergy. On the other end of the line, Kevin fell into another long silence. I think his brain was struggling to keep up. How did a five-alarm fire of a crisis just get turned into another business opportunity? After hanging up, I opened Twitter. The number one trending topic was Cole Evans insider trading. I clicked on it and was met with a tidal wave of vitriol. I knew this freeloader was a scumbag. Investigate him. $100 million settlement, and now this? Something stinks. Isabella Vance was blind to have ever married this clown. One finance influencer in particular, with the handle at JusticeBroker_Finn, was leading the charge, posting all sorts of evidence and confidently asserting that I was the frontman for a massive criminal enterprise. I didn't need to guess who was behind the account. It was Julian. I read through the post with great interest, even giving his main thread a like. Just then, my phone rang again. It was Isabella. This time, her voice was tight with suppressed fury and exhaustion. Cole, what in God's name do you think you're doing? Watching the news, I answered cheerfully. Do you have any idea how much your stunt has cost my company's stock? Do you realize you've become the laughingstock of the entire business world? I yawned. So, Ms. Vance, we're divorced. Whether your stock goes up or down is none of my business. As for being a laughingstock, let's wait and see who gets the last laugh. You're unbelievable. Isabella's voice trembled. I'm telling you now, I've already had my legal team begin the process of publicly severing all financial ties with you. Great. The sooner, the better, I urged. Her drama was interrupting my retirement. Isabella must have been pushed over the edge by my complete indifference, because she hung up on me. I put my phone down, ready for a long soak in the tub, when it rang again. It was Chloe. I answered, and her voice came through, soft and laced with concern. Cole, are you okay? I saw the news online. Never been better, I smiled. For some reason, my mood instantly improved. Don't be scared, she said, her voice quiet but firm. I believe you. And if you need a lawyer, my dad knows the best ones in the country. For a second, I had to admit, my heart skipped a beat. This sweet girl's unwavering trust had hit me right in the chest. Sometimes, all the praise in the world can't compare to a single voice in the darkness saying, I'm on your side. The next day, I woke up whenever I felt like it. I pulled open the curtains to a sky full of sunshine. Kevin's call came right on schedule, his voice giddy with a survivor's euphoria. Mr. Evans, you're a genius, a prophet. The feds came, they went through everything with a fine-tooth comb, and they found nothing. They even issued a public statement clearing us of all wrongdoing. I expected as much, I yawned, and the construction firms you had me call are all fighting to partner with us. City Hall also sent a message saying they're very interested in discussing the development contract. Good. You handle it, I said, already losing interest. Don't let it interfere with my breakfast. Yes, of course. I hung up and looked at the magnificent spread on my dining table. Eggs Benedict, fresh squeezed orange juice, and thick-cut artisanal bacon. Life, as it should be, was simple. Online, the narrative had flipped completely overnight. Cole Evans vindicated and Fed-cleared Evans were now the top trending topics. The same users who had been calling for my head yesterday were now defending me as a poor soul targeted by online bullies. I knew it. A guy that handsome can't be a criminal. His ex-wife tries to smear him the second they divorce? What a snake. I'm so sorry this happened to you, Cole. And the loudest voice of the mob, at JusticeBroker_Finn, had deleted all his tweets and vanished without a trace. I scrolled through the comments, laughing. Just then a call came through. Isabella. I hesitated for a second before answering. A long silence stretched from the other end of the line. Spit out, I said, my patience wearing thin. I'm sorry. Those two words coming from her were more shocking than an alien invasion. I raised my eyebrows. I was impulsive yesterday, she said, her voice low and slightly hoarse. So, the Vance Industries stock had recovered. Okay, I replied flatly. How did you know? She finally asked, unable to contain her curiosity any longer. Know what? About the Southbridge land. Lucky guess, I said. She obviously didn't believe me. Once is luck, but twice? 3 times? From the breezy divorce to the perfect investment to effortlessly dismantling a public attack. This man was an enigma she couldn't solve. Cole, can we meet? For the first time, Her tone was pleading, not commanding. "I'm busy," I said, shutting her down. "I have a charity gala to attend." I hung up on her again. "You want to see me?" "Too late. You had your chance." The charity gala was the social event of the year for the city's elite. I was there not to be seen, but because I knew a certain item up for auction tonight would be very useful to me. Dressed in a custom-tailored casual suit, I found a quiet corner to sit in. It didn't take long for me to become the center of attention. It was hard to keep a low profile after the week I'd had. A steady stream of people came over to try and network, but I brushed them all off with a few polite words. And then 2 familiar figures walked in. Isabella Vance and the man by her side. He was dressed in a pristine white suit, the picture of elegance and charm. It was her one true love, Julian Hayes. His arrival caused a stir. "Isn't that Julian Hayes from Hayes Corp? I heard he just got back from Europe. What a power couple. He and Ms. Vance look perfect together. Makes you wonder what she ever saw in Cole Evans. A kept man like that isn't even fit to shine Julian's shoes." The whispers buzzed around the room. Isabella looked uncomfortable, her eyes darting in my direction. Julian, however, smiled like a conquering hero and walked straight toward me. "Mr. Evans, a pleasure to finally meet you," he said, extending his hand, his smile radiating false warmth. I stayed slouched in my chair, not moving a muscle. "Sorry," I said. "I don't make it a habit to shake hands with losers." The air in the room turned to ice. The smile on Julian's face froze solid. The circle of sycophants who had gathered to watch me get put in my place stood there, mouths agape. No one had expected me to be so blunt, so utterly dismissive. "You have a strange sense of humor, Mr. Evans," Julian said, a muscle twitching in his jaw. He quickly regained his composure. "About that business online. It was all a misunderstanding. A friend of mine got a little carried away. I've already reprimanded him." "A friend? Nice try passing the buck. Is that so?" I smirked. "Then maybe you should apologize on your friend's behalf. On your knees would be a nice touch." "You." Julian's mask of civility finally cracked. Isabella stepped forward, her brow furrowed. "Cole, that's enough. Show some grace." "Oh, is the great Ms. Vance worried about him?" I turned my gaze on her, a mocking smile on my face. "What's the matter? Does seeing your one true love make you forget all about your ex-husband?" The blood drained from Isabella's face. A ripple of suppressed laughter went through the crowd. "Don't you dare go too far," Julian said, stepping in front of her protectively. "Too far." I stood up. I was a good half-foot taller than him, and I looked down at him with contempt. "I haven't even gotten started. Tell me, Mr. Hayes, have you seen what the final auction item is tonight?" Julian looked confused. I didn't wait for an answer, turning my back on them and taking a seat in the front row. The auction began. Jewelry, paintings, antiques. The bids flew fast and furious. To save face, Julian threw his money around, winning a landscape painting for $5 million to a round of applause. He shot me a triumphant, challenging look. I didn't raise my paddle once. I looked like I was about to fall asleep. Finally, the auctioneer's voice rose with excitement. "And now, for our final item of the evening. A one-of-a-kind Celadon distilling set, handcrafted by the legendary master distiller, the late Mr. Hemlock." A hush fell over the room. The distilling set was a masterpiece of craftsmanship, a priceless collector's item. But its real value lay in its history. Mr. Hemlock had been the personal distiller for the city's most powerful and reclusive tycoon, Marcus Sterling. Sterling was a kingmaker, a man richer than God who rarely appeared in public. His only known passion was fine liquor. To own this set was to hold the key to getting a meeting with Marcus Sterling. Julian's eyes lit up. His company had been desperately trying to get a foot in the door with Sterling Group for a massive new project. This was a godsend. $1 million, he called out the first to bid. $1.2 million. $1.5. The price climbed steadily. I remained perfectly still. Isabella glanced at me with a complicated expression. She probably thought I was out of money. The bidding war escalated until the price hit $8 million, with only Julian and another real estate mogul left. $10 million. Julian gritted out, a desperate final push. The room gasped. The real estate mogul shook his head and backed down. $10 million, going once. $10 million, going twice, the auctioneer cried. A smug, victorious smile spread across Julian's face. Just as the gavel was about to fall, I lazily raised my paddle. 20 million. Dead silence. Every eye in the room swiveled to me as if I were a ghost. He's insane. This profligate fool is absolutely insane. $20 million for some distilling equipment? The color drained from Julian's face, leaving it a pasty, greenish white. He glared at me, his eyes burning with a murderous rage. What is the meaning of this, Evans? No meaning, I shrugged. Just thought it looked nice. Should make a pretty fancy water bowl for my golden retriever. A snort came from somewhere in the crowd. Then, the entire room erupted in laughter. Using a $20 million antique as a dog bowl, this wasn't just showing off, it was performance art. Julian looked like he was about to have an aneurysm. He wanted to counter, but he'd already spent a fortune on the painting, and his company's cash flow was tight. More importantly, he couldn't afford the humiliation. Sold for $20 million. The gavel fell. I strolled up to the stage under the stunned gazes of the entire room and swiped my card. On the way back, I stopped next to Julian and clapped him on the shoulder. I leaned in and whispered, so only he could hear. Remember this, Julian, problems that can be solved with money aren't really problems. Your issue is that you have a lot of problems and very little money. After the auction, I became the new legend of the city's high society. Not because I was rich, but because I was crazy. No one could make sense of my actions. Isabella and Julian, on the other hand, became the butt of every joke. One was publicly humiliated by her ex-husband, the other financially castrated by his rival. I heard Julian smashed his $5 million painting to pieces that night. I couldn't care less. I was busy in my backyard, arranging my new $20 million dog bowl. Kevin stood beside me, wringing his hands, his face a mask of pained confusion. Sir, you're really going to use this for the dog? My new golden retriever, a goofy ball of fluff I named Buck, was happily circling the Celadon set, occasionally licking its gleaming surface. What else would I do with it? I glanced at him. You think I actually know how to distill gin? Kevin said nothing. He felt his understanding of the world being systematically dismantled and reassembled into something nonsensical. Just then, the doorbell rang. Kevin went to answer it and returned a moment later with an impeccably dressed, sharp-eyed older gentleman. Mr. Evans, this is Mr. Abernathy, I said with a smile, getting up to greet him. It was Marcus Sterling's right-hand man. Mr. Evans, what a charming setup, Abernathy said, his gaze flicking from the distilling set to the tail-wagging dog beside it. A hint of amusement touched his lips. Just fooling around, Mr. Abernathy. Welcome. If old Hemlock knew you were using his masterpiece as a dog bowl, he'd probably claw his way out of his grave to haunt you, Abernathy remarked dryly. I just smiled. I knew he was testing me. Hemlock was still very much alive. I doubt you came all this way to discuss the dead, sir, I said, pouring him a glass of rare, single-malt scotch. Abernathy took a sip, and his eyes widened in appreciation. Excellent. Smooth on the palate, with a complex, smoky finish. It seems you are a true connoisseur, young man. Nothing compared to Mr. Sterling's collection, I'm sure. Mr. Evans, Abernathy said, setting down his glass and getting to the point. Let's not play games. Mr. Sterling is very fond of this distilling set. Name your price. I shook my head. Mr. Abernathy, it's not for sale. His brow furrowed. I'd like to give it to him as a gift, I said, changing course. Abernathy stared at me, completely taken aback. A gift? Something he bought for $20 million he was just giving away? On one condition, I said, meeting his gaze. The Westgate development project that Hayes Corp is bidding on. I would appreciate it if Sterling Group would consider all bids fairly and objectively. I didn't ask him to give me the project. I knew that with a man like Marcus Sterling, the less you asked for, the more he respected you. Abernathy studied me for a long moment, his eyes filled with a newfound admiration. I understand completely. Mr. Sterling will graciously accept your gift. He also extends an invitation for you to visit his estate whenever you are free. I'm sure he would be delighted to discuss the finer points of distilling with you. After seeing Abernathy out, Kevin was looking at me not as a man, but as a god. Sir, how did you know Mr. Sterling's man would come here? Lucky guess. I couldn't very well tell him I'd read it in a book. In the original story, Julian buys the set and obsequiously presents it to Sterling, only to be thrown out by Abernathy. Marcus Sterling despised transparently ambitious people. I had done the exact opposite. First, I showed complete disdain for the object's intended purpose. Then, I gifted it away for free, asking only for a fair shot. The contrast was stark. A grasping, craven social climber versus a cultured gentleman who saw money as a toy. It wasn't hard to guess which one Marcus Sterling would prefer. News of this spread like wildfire. My reputation as a crazy man gained a new, more intriguing adjective, a dangerously unpredictable crazy man. Meanwhile, I was living my dream life at the villa. My days were filled with workouts, playing with my dog, and watching my chefs engage in culinary battles. My evenings were for sipping fine liquor, reading, and occasionally texting with Chloe. Our relationship was progressing quickly. She'd tell me about her classes. I'd send her videos of Buck doing something stupid. She complained that her ragdoll cat, Duchess, was too aloof. I'd tell her that Buck had already fallen hopelessly in love with Duchess. One day, she sent me a photo. She was in her kitchen wearing a yellow sweatsuit, a smudge of flour on her nose, looking like an adorable kitten. The text read, "Made you cookies. When are you coming to get them?" I looked at the picture, and my heart did a little flip. On my way, I put down my phone, ready to head out, and saw her. Isabella. She was standing at the gate of my villa. I had no idea how long she'd been there. She was dressed in a sharp power suit, but her face held a weariness I had never seen before. "Can I help you?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe, my face a blank slate. Isabella just stared at me, her expression a tangled mess of shock, confusion, and a sliver of, was that hurt? She saw Buck the golden retriever chasing a Roomba around my living room. She saw the Celadon distilling set, the proof of my insanity, sitting peacefully under a grape arbor in the yard, looking like a piece of modern art. She saw me, dressed in comfortable lounge clothes, radiating a sense of calm and contentment she had never witnessed. This place, my home, was filled with life. It was the polar opposite of her cold, empty mansion, a place that felt more like a corporate office than a home. She opened her mouth, as if she had 1,000 questions, but only one came out. Julian's bid for the Westgate project. Sterling Group rejected it. Yep, I nodded. Saw that coming. It was you, wasn't it? She asked, her eyes boring into mine. Was what me? I held up my hands in mock innocence. All I did was give a gift to a fellow enthusiast. Is it my fault if Mr. Hayes's business proposal reads like it was written by a middle schooler? Isabella was speechless. She was right. Business was business. The official reason Sterling Group gave was that Julian's plan was all flash and no substance, with a deeply flawed risk assessment. She had no proof I'd had anything to do with it. But her gut told her that this man in front of her, this man she thought she had all figured out, was the architect of it all. "Cole, who are you?" she finally asked, the question that had been haunting her for weeks. "I'm your ex-husband." I smiled. "You have a short memory, Ms. Vance. You were never like this before." Her voice rose with emotion. "You used to bring me breakfast. You memorized all my preferences. You'd get flustered if I said a single careless word. Why did you change?" I looked at her like she was a child throwing a tantrum. "Ms. Vance, are you asking me why I stopped being your lapdog?" I took a step closer, my shadow falling over her. "Did you ever stop to think how a normal man might feel after being ignored, belittled, and treated with cold indifference for 3 years by the woman he loved? What do you think was going through my head when I knew your heart belonged to another man? While you happily accepted everything I did for you? When your one true love came back, and you couldn't wait to shove a check in my face and show me the door, what did you expect me to do? Grab your leg and beg you not to abandon me?" With every question, the color drained further from her face. By the end, she was trembling, her lips pale and bloodless. My words were like knives, tearing through the armor of cold professionalism she wore, exposing the raw truth underneath. She had never once considered things from my perspective. She had always taken my devotion for granted. I didn't," she stammered, her voice a dry rasp. "You didn't." I scoffed. "Isabella, you just got used to having me around. When I was gone, it felt uncomfortable. That isn't love. It's not even affection. It's just selfishness." I turned my back on her, ready to close the door. Wait. She reached out and grabbed the sleeve of my shirt. The grip was weak, desperate. Can we? She looked up, her usually icy eyes now shimmering with unshed tears. Is there any chance for us? I looked at her, then down at her fingers clutching my sleeve. I was silent for a few seconds. Then, slowly and deliberately, I pried her fingers off my arm, one by one. Isabella, you know about recycling, right? Expired relationships belong in the toxic waste bin. Otherwise, they just pollute everything around them. The door clicked shut, leaving her standing alone with her shock, her humiliation, and her regret. I had cookies to pick up. Driving over to Chloe's, I felt as clear and calm as the autumn sky. That speech I gave Isabella wasn't just to put her in her place. It was my final goodbye to the pathetic man whose life I'd inherited. From now on, I was just Cole Evans, a man who just wanted to relax and enjoy life. I pulled up to Chloe's house, and she was already waiting by the gate, looking like a little rabbit waiting for its owner. Her face lit up when she saw my car, and she ran over. "You're here," she said, handing me a beautifully wrapped box, her cheeks flushed with a mix of shyness and anticipation. "Try one. Tell me what you think." I opened the box. Inside were perfectly golden cookies, shaped like teddy bears and stars. They were too cute to eat. I picked up a bear and took a bite. Rich, buttery, not too sweet, with a perfect crumbly texture. "Well?" she asked, watching me nervously. "They're incredible," I said, and I meant it. You could be a pastry chef at a Michelin star restaurant. My praise made her blush even deeper. "I'm just glad you like them," she mumbled, looking down at her feet. "I don't like them," I said, my voice serious. "I love them." Her face turned the color of a ripe tomato. "Right," I said, retrieving an insulated container from my car. "A gift for a gift." I had my chef make some lobster mac and cheese. "Wow," she exclaimed, opening the container. The rich, savory aroma wafted out. "This is my favorite. How did you know?" "Lucky guess," I said, using my all-purpose excuse. The truth was, I'd overheard her mention it on the phone to her mother the last time I dropped her off. "Details, gentlemen. There's a secret weapon." Chloe's eyes shone with a grateful light. "Cole, you're the best." "I try," I said with a grin. She giggled. Just then, her ragdoll cat, Duchess, sauntered out of the yard with regal grace. She gave me a haughty glance, then rubbed against Chloe's leg. At that exact moment, my goofy dog, Buck, somehow managed to hit the button for the car window and launch himself out. He bounded over to Duchess and, before anyone could react, gave her noble cat face a giant, sloppy lick. The scene devolved into chaos. Duchess, stunned and violated, puffed up to twice her normal size and let out a furious hiss. Buck, meanwhile, circled her like a smitten fool, tail wagging, making happy little snorting sounds. "Buck, get back here," I yelled, trying not to laugh. Chloe knelt to comfort her traumatized feline. "I'm so sorry," I said, rushing over. "He's a little overly friendly." "It's okay," Chloe said, stroking Duchess's fur. She looked up at me and smiled. "I think they might get along just fine." I looked at the idiotic dog and the proud cat who, despite her protests, hadn't moved an inch. I had to agree. It seemed our pets were one step ahead of us. We knelt there on the sidewalk, watching the dog and cat drama unfold, and smiled at each other. The setting sun cast our shadows long on the pavement. This was what peace felt like. Of course, someone always has to ruin a perfect moment. A black Bentley glided to a stop beside us. The window lowered, revealing Julian Hayes' dark, stormy face. When he saw Chloe and me kneeling so close together, his eyes narrowed with a venomous glare. "Chloe, what are you doing with him?" Julian's voice shattered the warm, peaceful air around us. Chloe stood up, her tone polite but distant. "Hello, Julian. I told you to stay away from him," Julian said, his eyes locked on me, though his words were for her. "Don't you know what kind of person he is?" "I know exactly who he is," Chloe said, taking a small step forward, subtly positioning herself in front of me. Her voice was firm. "Cole is my friend." There was again that simple, powerful statement. A warm feeling spread through my chest. Being protected by an angel was a hell of a feeling. "Friend," Julian sneered, getting out of the car. "Chloe, you're so naive." He's only with you because he wants to use your family's influence to get back at me and Isabella. He turned to me, his eyes burning with hatred. I really underestimated you, Evans. I thought you were just a brainless nouveau riche idiot, but I didn't realize you'd stoop to using cheap tricks like this. I cleaned out my ear with my pinky finger. Are you finished? I asked lazily. Because you're polluting the air over here. You. He sputtered, his face turning purple. Julian, Chloe said, frowning, a clear note of annoyance in her voice. Please be respectful. Cole is not the person you say he is. And frankly, my private life is none of your business. That shut him up. He had always played the role of Chloe's protective older brother, a position he clearly enjoyed. It had never occurred to him that one day she would stand up to him for another man. Chloe, I'm just looking out for you, he said, his voice full of feigned anguish. He's playing you. This man has nothing but a little dirty money. He's an uneducated, uncultured degenerate who only knows how to waste it. He is not, Chloe retorted instantly. He understands music and poetry. He tells me fascinating stories about history. He's kind and gentle, and he remembers my favorite foods. He is not a degenerate. The girl's voice was clear and strong, each word a shield in my defense. I leaned against my car, arms folded, listening as she listed my supposed virtues like a proud mother hen. This feeling, it was better than making $100 million. Julian was flabbergasted. The sweet, soft-spoken girl who used to follow him around was suddenly a fierce defender. And the things she was saying, were they true? Cole Evans understood poetry? Impossible. Chloe, that's enough, I said, deciding to step in. If I let her keep going, I was liable to propose on the spot. I walked forward, gently pulling Chloe behind me, and faced Julian directly. Mr. Hayes, let me correct a few of your misconceptions. First, I'm not uneducated. I'm just not interested in the rat race. My money has already made more money than I can spend in 10 lifetimes. Second, I don't just waste my time, I experience life. If the only point of living is to hoard wealth and screw over your enemies, what a boring existence that would be. And third, and most importantly, I paused, then wrapped an arm around Chloe's shoulders, pulling her gently against my side. She tensed for a second, then relaxed, leaning into me trustingly. I looked down at her, my expression softening. I said, my voice low and tender, is not someone you get to talk to. I looked back up at Julian, my eyes turning to ice. My voice was ablaze. If you ever bother her again, I promise you within 3 days, there will be no such thing as Hayes Corp. My voice was quiet, but it carried an authority that was absolute. Julian was so taken aback by my sudden shift in demeanor that he took an involuntary step backward. He looked at the girl in my arms, blushing, but looking at me with total trust, and then back at my calm, commanding expression. A toxic fire of pure jealousy ignited in his soul. Why? Why did this loser, this man he had walked all over, get to have the lingering affection of Isabella Vance and the complete devotion of Chloe Reed? He couldn't stand it. Who do you think you are, Evans? Do you own this city? Julian snarled, trying to regain his footing. More or less, I shrugged. In 6 months, when the tech startups and biotech firms I'd casually invested in went public, that statement wouldn't even be an exaggeration. Julian, of course, took it as the ravings of a lunatic. Fine, I'll be waiting. Let's see you make Hayes Corp disappear, he yelled, pointing a trembling finger at me. And you, Chloe Reed, you will regret this. He scrambled back into his car and sped off like a scalded dog. Once he was gone, Chloe, who had been tucked against my side, suddenly realized the intimacy of our position. Her face bloomed into a brilliant shade of red. She tried to pull away, but I held her firm. Don't move, I whispered, leaning close to her ear. The tip of her ear turned a deep crimson. Thank you, I said, looking into her eyes, for what you did back there, to be defended so completely without a moment's hesitation. It was a first for me, in this life or the last. I didn't do much, she stammered, avoiding my gaze. To me, I said softly, it was everything. It felt cheesy, but in that moment, it was the truest thing I could say. Chloe seemed to melt against me, her body relaxing completely in my arms. The scent of gardenias and fresh shampoo was intoxicating, calming. Holding her felt like holding the entire world. After a long moment, she looked up at me, her fawn-like eyes sparkling. Cole. Yeah. My mom says we should come inside for dinner. The sudden change of subject gave me whiplash. Your mom. Yeah, she nodded, as if it were perfectly normal. She saw the whole thing from the window. She said since you were already holding me, you have to take responsibility. Starting with dinner. I was speechless. That woman was a genius. I followed Chloe into the Reed family home for the first time. The decor was classic and elegant, with the faint scent of sandalwood in the air. Her parents were sitting on the living room sofa, their expressions as serious as judges. It felt less like a dinner invitation and more like an interrogation. Mr. and Mrs. Reed, hello, I said, offering the container of lobster mac and cheese like a sacrificial lamb. Mrs. Reed took it, a hint of a smile softening her features. Well, at least he has good taste. Mr. Reed pushed his glasses up his nose, his gaze sharp and analytical. Cole Evans. I've heard about you. The former son-in-law of the Vance family. You've certainly made a name for yourself lately. It's all just talk, sir, I said humbly. Just talk, he scoffed. 20 million for a dog bowl is more than just talk. So, my reputation had preceded me. Dad, Chloe protested, running over and hugging his arm. Don't scare him. Cole is a good person. A daughter's plea is a father's kryptonite. Mr. Reed's stern expression immediately softened. Good is as good does, he said, his eyes still on me. Young man, it's easy to get arrogant when you come into money. I don't care about your past, but if you ever hurt my Chloe, I will personally make sure you can't show your face in the city again. His threat carried a hell of a lot more weight than Julian's. I stood up straight and gave him a respectful bow. You have my word, sir. I won't. I would never hurt her. I would only spoil her rotten. That dinner was the most nerve-wracking meal I'd had in 2 lifetimes. Mr. Reed maintained a stony silence, but Mrs. Reed was incredibly warm, piling my plate high with food and asking me questions as if I were her own son. Chloe sat beside me, sneaking glances and hiding her smiles. By the end of the meal, I felt like I had been officially approved, branded, and was just waiting for the wedding date to be set. After dinner, Mr. Reed invited me to his study for a game of chess. He played an aggressive, attacking game. I countered with a solid, impenetrable defense. The game ended in a draw. As he reset the pieces, Mr. Reed looked at me with a glimmer of approval. You have a steady hand, he said, taking a sip of tea. Chloe is a good girl. We've spoiled her. She's too trusting. I'm giving you the most precious thing in my life. Don't you dare make her cry. I won't, I promised again. It was late when I finally left. Chloe walked me to the door. In the moonlight, her face was soft and beautiful. My dad, he wasn't too hard on you, was he? She asked quietly. Not at all, I smiled. He just told me to take good care of you. I reached out and gently tapped the tip of her nose. So, Chloe Reed, will you give me the chance to do that? A blush crept up her neck, and she nodded, her voice barely a whisper. Yes. My heart soared. I leaned down and kissed her. Her lips were just as soft and sweet as I had imagined, with the faint taste of the cookies she'd made. The kiss was light, hesitant, but it sent an electric jolt straight through me. And of course, that's when my phone rang, shattering the moment. It was Kevin. It exploded. Sir, it exploded, he shouted, practically incoherent with excitement. What exploded? I asked, annoyed at the interruption as I pulled away from Chloe. The stock. It went supernova. Kevin screamed. Just now, that failing video game company you had me buy. They just released a new game. It went viral overnight. The stock hit the circuit breaker. It's up 1,000%. 1,000%, sir. I paused. Oh, right. That. The game was called Realm of Chaos. I'd seen the studio was about to go under, so I'd told Kevin to buy it, threw some development money at them, and promptly forgot all about it. I hadn't expected to see a return so quickly. I see, I said calmly. That's it. I see. Kevin sounded dumbfounded. Sir, we're talking about billions of dollars. Is that a lot? I asked. I looked down at the girl in my arms, her face flushed, her eyes dazed and happy. She was the real prize. Don't bother me with minor details like this again, I said, then hung up. I'm busy. On the other end of the line, Kevin stood frozen, phone in hand. Billions. Or minor details? His understanding of wealth had just been violently recalibrated. The news, of course, got out. Coley Evans Smith asked Stutch how to become a billionaire, but napping Calais Vance gets her in his sleep. The ridiculous headlines took over the trending topics again. I had officially graduated from kept man to investment god and mystery tycoon. Every financial journalist wanted an interview. Every business leader wanted a meeting. Kevin turned them all away. My official statement was the same for everyone. No time. Busy falling in love. Those 6 words did more to cement my legend than any business deal ever could. It also sparked a new national obsession. Who is Cole's girlfriend? The entire internet was trying to figure out which goddess had managed to tame me. It didn't take long for them to uncover Chloe's identity. Heiress to the Reed Corporation fortune. Ivy League scholar. A kind-hearted beauty. Holy cow. This is a real-life fairy tale. They're perfect for each other in every way. Looks, money, brains. Okay, I'm heartbroken, but I approve. They're too cute. Only an actual angel is good enough for our Cole. The internet, for once, was united in its approval. Meanwhile, in the CEO's office of Vance Industries, Isabella stared at her phone. It was a paparazzi photo of Chloe and me kissing under a streetlight. Her knuckles were white as she gripped the phone. In the photo, the man was handsome, the woman was radiant, and the entire scene glowed with a soft, romantic light. Her heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand, the pain so sharp it took her breath away. Did she regret it? Isabella asked herself that question 100 times a day. The answer was always yes. She had regretted it from a moment I'd signed the divorce papers without a fight. But her pride, her goddamn pride, wouldn't let her admit it. She thought I was just playing hard to get. She believed that if she ever decided she wanted me back, I would come running, just like I always had. She was wrong. I didn't come back. Instead, I had soared to heights she couldn't comprehend, a place where she could only look up from a great distance. And now, there was someone else by my side. A girl who was kinder, gentler, and who knew how to cherish me. She opened a drawer in her desk. Inside was a small velvet box. In the box was a pair of men's cufflinks. She had bought them for me 3 years ago, an anonymous gift for our first wedding anniversary. But on that day, a call from Julian had made her forget. The cufflinks had sat in that drawer for 3 years. Like her feelings for me, they had been kept in the dark, and now it was too late to ever bring them into the light. She picked up her phone and dialed the number she now knew by heart. It rang for a long time before I answered. Hello. My voice was thick with sleep. It's me, she said, her voice hoarse. Oh, Ms. Vance. My tone was polite, distant, the way one speaks to a business acquaintance. Is there something I can help you with? She wanted to say so many things, but the words were stuck in her throat. I'm sorry. Too little, too late. I regret it. Pathetic. Can we start over? She had no right to ask. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. My girlfriend is waiting for me to make her breakfast. I said, my patience clearly gone. Don't, she cried out. Cole, I just wanted to ask you. Did you ever, even for a moment, love me? Asking that question took every ounce of strength she had. She held her breath, waiting for my answer like a prisoner awaiting their sentence. The line was silent. Every second stretched into an eternity. Just when she thought I wouldn't answer, I let out a soft, dry chuckle. Ms. Vance, have you heard of Schrodinger's cat? Before the box is opened, the cat exists in a state of being both alive and dead. My feelings for you were the same way. Before you pushed that divorce agreement in front of me, before you opened the box marked the end, maybe they existed. But the box is open now. The cat is dead. I hung up. Isabella's hand fell, the phone slipping from her grasp. She slid down to the cold floor. The tears finally came. She curled into a ball in the corner of her vast, empty office and wept like a lost child, her cries echoing in the silence. She knew, with a certainty that shattered her soul, that she had lost me forever. She had been the one to kill the cat that had once looked at her as if she were its entire world. My life finally fell into a perfect rhythm, the rhythm I had always dreamed of. Mornings began with breakfast with Chloe. Afterward, I'd go with her to campus, attending her lectures, or just reading in the library while she studied. Lunches were culinary adventures, courtesy of my team of chefs. Afternoons were for the gym, the pool, and playing with a goofy dog and a regal cat. Evenings were spent playing chess with Mr. Reed or curled up on the sofa with Chloe, watching an old movie. My investment firm, under Kevin's brilliant management, continued to flourish, its successes becoming the stuff of legend on Wall Street. Hayes Corp, after losing the Sterling project, suffered a series of cascading failures. The money dried up, and they declared bankruptcy. Julian himself was indicted on charges of fraud and racketeering. The ending was the same as in the book, but the roles were reversed. This time, I wasn't a casualty. I was the one watching the storm from a safe distance. As for Isabella, I rarely heard anything about her. I'd occasionally see a headline about Vance Industries missing a key market trend, its stocks slowly declining. She was still the powerful, untouchable Ice Queen CEO. But in the photos, her beautiful, cold face never seemed to hold even the hint of a smile. One evening, Chloe and I were walking on the beach. The setting sun painted the ocean gold. Buck and Duchess chased each other across the sand, a perfect picture of domestic bliss. "Cole," Chloe said, stopping and looking up at me. "HM, let's get married," she said. Her eyes reflected the sunset, sparkling brighter than any star. I was speechless. Isn't the guy supposed to be the one to ask that? Are you sure? "I've never been more sure of anything," she said, nodding emphatically. "I don't want to wait. I want you to be the first person I see when I wake up every morning. I want a name next to mine on all the boring legal documents." I looked at her, and a wave of warmth so profound it almost buckled my knees washed over me. How did I get so lucky? To find a girl so pure, so passionate, so brave. I dropped to one knee and pulled a small velvet box from my pocket. Inside was the ring I'd had made for her weeks ago. "Chloe Reed," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "You kind of stole my line, but I'm going to ask anyway. Will you marry me, a lazy, retired, and sometimes difficult man?" She was crying and laughing at the same time as she nodded. Yes, I will." I slipped the ring onto her finger, stood up, and pulled her into my arms, holding her tight. In the distance, the sun sank below the horizon, leaving behind a sky streaked with brilliant color. I knew that my real story, the best one, was just beginning. A truly perfect life isn't about having world-shattering power or unimaginable wealth. It's about getting to live every single day exactly the way you want to, with good food, good drink, and a beautiful view. And with the one person you want to share it all with. That's more than enough. The end.